Yes, we think Bitcoin is the biggest idea. It serves the three revolutions. Global monetary system, they do not. New asset class, they are part of a new asset class, but Bitcoin's going to be the biggest. And new technology, it's the most secure blockchain technology out there.
What about all these others, Solana and all these other?
So Ether and Solana. So the big three are the big three, and we think they'll all be successful, all three of them. Bitcoin the most.
So Cathie Wood, as you just heard, made another pretty big proclamation, and a significant one, on the popular CEO Diary podcast. Specifically, she said that the only three cryptos you need are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Some people, of course, would agree with her. A lot of others would take issue with that kind of a statement. And we're going to break it down today. We're going to look at this argument presented by Cathie Wood, both in terms of its strengths and its faults, which do exist, of course, and we'll analyze the merit of her statement. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie, and this is Altcoin Buzz. All the best of luck if you choose to invest. If you're in this space, whether it's these three cryptos, another three, another 100, whatever the case may be, if you're in cryptocurrency, in altcoins, I genuinely wish you well. But just remember that I am not a financial or investment advisor, and that means, by extension, of course, that this video is not official financial or investment advice. Let's begin here with the pro case for Cathie Wood, or I guess the pro case for her argument. She's a big voice, of course, which really in a lot of ways is one that is bridging TradFi, traditional finance, and the crypto industry. That means that when she talks, people tend to listen. I think it's fair to say she's garnered our respect. Her ARK Invest ETFs are among the most popular in the industry. Her Bitcoin ETF is actually the fourth largest, behind only BlackRock, Fidelity, and Grayscale. So it's very sizable. And as a result of that, her voice is certainly enough to move markets. Not as big as some of the other voices out there, but it's still substantial. And her pro-Bitcoin argument is basically, if you want to boil it down, saying that Bitcoin is going to 15x in the next 5 years.
It does appreciate over time. Now you go through, it's volatile, no question, and that's the first thing people have to know about it. But it is becoming less volatile as more and more investors hold it.
So you think Bitcoin will potentially multiply in value by 15 times in the next 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that'd be pretty crazy.
It's a very big idea because it is a new asset class. It does represent a global monetary system, unlike any other digital asset out there. It is backed by the largest computer network in the world. The layer one, which is the base layer, has not been hacked. Think about that. Since 2009, when it was released, not been hacked. How many systems can say that? And it is a technology. It is native to the internet. And again, digital assets, or any Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, all of them exist because they're vying to be the native currencies to the internet and to enable smart contracts and really transform the financial services industry.
Essentially, what she believes is that BTC is going to grow that quickly while also becoming less volatile than it has traditionally been. And that's going to be a function of its maturation as it grows and it gets larger. And then in addition to that, as she goes on to say, she also likes Ethereum. She also likes Solana. But that being said, she does think Bitcoin is going to outshine them both and be the most successful project in cryptocurrency. And as far as Bitcoin goes, we pretty much agree. That's actually why we continuously pound the idea home that you at least need to have some BTC in your portfolio. Even if you're a fan of altcoins, as we are, even if you have mostly altcoins, a little bit of Bitcoin is not only a good idea, it's pretty much essential. Right now, of course, Bitcoin is approaching a new all-time high, and that's not an accident. The Ethereum use case is a little less clear. It's the very clear home for DeFi, and so far, by the way, also for RWA, real-world assets. More apps and protocols call ETH home than any other chain, including, of course, EVM chains. But institutional interest in ETH has been inconsistent. And that's, by the way, especially true when you compare it to Bitcoin. But that being said, institutions currently seem to want it, and the ETFs are filling up with ETH.
Do you even surge, bro?
For more context, check out this new project, which we're proud to be rolling out. I'm going to have some more information in the days and weeks ahead. I'll get that to you soon. Solana is next on Cathie Wood's list, and this project is a pretty clear winner this cycle. They were the darling, of course, of the last bull cycle. They also proved that they have a lot of resilience, climbing back from a low of $9 amid all that FTX mess in the last bear market. And to be fair, it has cooled off quite a bit as a project from its recent high of $262. Sol, S-O-L, as I record, sits at $158.63. Sol Strategies, which builds Solana infrastructure, is the first publicly traded company to develop a Solana treasury policy, a la Michael Saylor, kind of what he was doing with Bitcoin and continues to do. This likely will not be the last of such examples, though. And there's a few different reasons that I hold that opinion, but just one, for example, is the fact that a spot ETF is probably coming soon, at least if the wisdom of the crowd on Polymarket is to be believed. Right here, they're suggesting there's a 91% chance. Or to clarify, what that means is that 91% of people betting on the issue have put money down, saying that, yes, a spot ETF for Solana is coming. And as a project, Solana is, of course, the fast-growing home in crypto for NFTs, for meme coins, whether you like them or not, and even more sectors are being added pretty much every month. And so the logic goes that if anyone outside of Ethereum is going to become the leading smart contract chain, it's going to be Solana. So all told, yes, we do have some solid reasons to hold these three projects, two altcoins and Bitcoin, which is not an altcoin, but these three crypto projects. And there are some compelling reasons as to why Cathie Wood would have these three and only these three. There is, however, a counter argument to be made. Altcoins are up from April lows, but mostly non-trending. And people are getting antsy for when exactly alt season is finally going to start. But SUI really is one of the select few projects who are at the heart of the growth in the current cycle. It's quickly become one of the leading alts in this market and is up over 200% in the last 12 months. And there's a good reason for that. SUI is killing it in all the big sectors it supports. Sectors like DeFi, where SUI nearly crossed $2 billion in TVL and is almost at $1.5 billion in record time. SUI has some of the fastest stablecoin growth of any chain, so people are using it for real transactions. Walrus is changing the game in decentralized data storage. Its token launch, WAL, was a big hit, while Seal and Nautilus are making things more secure and more private. And SUI Play 0x1 is coming very soon in September and is now officially sold out with 10,000 pre-orders. SUI even has a small but growing meme coin market if you're a meme coin lover, if that's your jam. Look, if you haven't used SUI yet, you really ought to give it a try, and you should also be following SUI's X account for all the latest information and updates. Check out our link in the description of this video for more information. So let's now consider why Cathie Wood might be wrong. The total 3 chart, which shows the value of all crypto excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, sits at $865 billion. Yesterday alone, $159 billion changed hands in this market. This one stat alone shows us that there's a pretty big market for projects outside of the big three. Now, Solana's market cap sits at about $83.5 billion. So if we take Solana's market cap out of the total 3, we're left with about $865 billion minus $83 billion, just rounding the numbers here. That leaves us with $782 billion. That's $782 billion of market value that Cathie Wood says is unnecessary. Now, look, even if she's partially right that these are the 3 best projects in crypto, is that really enough reason to exclude all the other projects that make up that $782 billion? In other words, is there really no value in stablecoins and payments chains like Polygon, BNB Chain, Avalanche, or the very clear product market fit of USDT or Tron? If you think about it, stablecoins alone, which are heating up in a lot of ways, are $250 billion of value. So the issuing and payment chains certainly have a claim to some value, I would say. And then even putting all of that aside, there are additionally the 2 hottest sectors that we are constantly talking about on this channel: AI, artificial intelligence, and RWA, real-world assets. RWA is big on Ethereum, granted, really big actually. But if you were to exclude it, in fact, you'd be excluding most of the players in what has become a $40 billion sector. Ondo's chain is an EVM chain, but many new app chains are building in RWA to ensure compliance with regulators at home for asset issuers. And that can be in or outside of Ethereum. Then there's also AI and AI agents. If you count the two of those as one sector combined, we're talking about a $36 billion space. So should we really be excluding all of these and all that potential just because they're not part of the big three? They're not Bitcoin, Solana, or Ethereum. And the same argument can be made for other sectors like NFTs, DePIN, gaming, but I think you get the point here. In my opinion, the broad exclusion of all other projects is kind of silly. But it depends on your investment profile. It depends on how wet you want to get your feet in this space. Generally speaking, for most of us, the best strategy we can do is probably a mix of the two. Bitcoin in particular, yes, but the big three generally should be the foundation of your portfolio. Then after that, based on your own experience, your expertise, your research, or trends that are happening, or however you decide, you add from there. You add the projects that either interest you or that are appealing in one form or another. Certainly one thing that Cathie Wood is right about is project selection being key. Most evidence points to an alt season that is not going to be broad enough for most altcoins to rise, and that's just because there are too many coins out there, not enough liquidity. It's going to be a little bit different this time around. But at least speaking for myself, after the big three, and maybe you'd agree if you've been watching this channel, we do love big caps and their strong positions in the market, so we'd select from some of those. And like I said, we also love AI and RWA. That means you could very easily create a pretty excellent portfolio that crushes the market with a foundation, yes, in those big three, again, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and then some additional solid selections in those spaces, AI, RWA, which would include large, medium, and small caps, thus kind of spreading out your risk. So I would say take Cathie Wood's advice. Yes, she knows what she's talking about, maybe not in the literal sense, but generally speaking, chances are you probably know more about NFTs or gaming or meme coins, whatever. You probably know more about those things if you're into crypto than she does. So do your own research, create your own killer portfolio. Best of luck. But at the end of the day, her advice to include those big three projects is solid, just incomplete.